Before I got divorced, I was with Rose Prescott for a while. It began with my over-the-top pursuit of her and ended with our very public fallout. The heartbreak crushed her. She was sick for 2 years, transforming from a proud heiress into a melancholic recluse. Now, I'm divorced and back in town. On the very first day she was out of the hospital, I proposed to her again. Marry me? Her eyes reddened with fury. What makes you think I'd ever want a divorce, man? Later that night, she threw a fit all evening, demanding to know why City Hall wasn't open at night. Rose and I saw each other again at my best friend Caleb Davis's lawn wedding. The bride and groom were supposed to be the main event, but nearly every heir and heiress in Manhattan's high society was orbiting her. She looked thinner, her complexion a little pale. She was wearing a strapless gown that showed off the perfect lines of her shoulders and neck, looking regal and distant, her beauty standing out from the crowd. Compared to 2 years ago, she had a fragile, ethereal quality to her. Perhaps my stare was too intense, because Rose turned her head slightly in the crowd, her gaze sweeping in my direction. In that instant, her calm, detached expression was shattered by a storm of emotion. The others followed her line of sight, and when they saw me, a murmur went through the crowd. Mrs. Davis quickly came over, affectionately taking my hand and leading me in the opposite direction. "Make, you're here." Was the trip tiring? The story of how I had publicly dumped Rose was so explosive that everyone in our circle knew I was a forbidden topic for Manhattan's princess. Now, the crowd that had been surrounding her began to disperse, breaking off into smaller clusters. The fawning compliments turned into hushed whispers. He actually has the nerve to show his face? He completely ruined Rose Prescott's reputation. I know. I heard she was sick for 2 years before she recovered, and she's still very fragile. I raised an eyebrow, surprised. In my memory, she had plenty of energy, especially at night. Rose heard them too and walked toward me, her expression cold. "Mr. Anderson, didn't you bring your wife along?" I just smiled without answering and turned to leave. Rose grabbed my wrist, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "Looks like she couldn't handle your temper and dumped you, huh?" I stopped and turned back, perfectly composed. That's not something Miss Prescott needs to worry about. There are plenty of women out there. I'll just find one who can put up with me. Rose froze for a second, then gave a self-deprecating laugh. "Right, how could I forget? You're the most notorious player in Manhattan." I gently pushed her hand away, picked up a drink from a nearby table, and raised it to her in a mock toast. "Exactly. It's not like you just met me." But Rose snatched the glass from my hand and angrily thrust another one at me. I glanced at the label on the drink table, a smirk playing on my lips. How thoughtful of Miss Prescott to remember I'm allergic to mangoes. I said, my tone mischievous. "But isn't it a little improper to be so attentive to an ex who was, until recently, a married man?" She stood on her tiptoes, getting close to my ear, and hissed through gritted teeth. "Make, Anderson, you get a real kick out of messing with me, don't you?" I shrugged, feigning innocence. "Whatever do you mean?" The next second, I leaned down to her ear and whispered with a smirk, immensely. How amusing. She was acting like the wounded party, as if I were the one who had played her. She was the one who had me wrapped around her little finger. Rose and I were practically childhood sweethearts. When we were kids, I was the leader of the pack, and she was my little shadow. Whenever we played house, if I was the dad, she insisted on being the mom. The adults loved to tease us, saying that Make had found a good wife so early. It's a shame that when we grew up, we realized the children of powerful families don't get to choose who they marry. On my 20th birthday, I found out my grandfather had arranged my engagement to Bianca Sterling, the eldest daughter of the Sterling family. I protested with a hunger strike and even ran away from home, but my family didn't care. They just cut off my credit cards. Later, Caleb gave me an idea: go after Rose. For one, we'd known each other our whole lives, so there was already a foundation there. And second, Rose was the undisputed princess of Manhattan's elite. If I was her boyfriend, it would be easy to get out of any other engagement. I thought it over and decided it made sense. To completely torpedo the arrangement with the Sterlings, I made my pursuit of her as extravagant as possible. I sang love songs to her at karaoke parties, sent her a literal truckload of red roses for her birthday, and for the proposal, I rented out the digital billboards on a whole block of buildings across the river. Rose asked me with a look of disgust where I'd learned such cheesy tactics, but she couldn't hide the smile on her face as her hand honestly slipped into mine. After that, Rose went back to being my shadow. Wherever I went, she followed. But she was still the proud heiress, and she never once told me that she liked me. I didn't really mind. She was just my shield against the arranged marriage, after all. I figured we'd just keep up the charade indefinitely. That is, until I overheard someone say the Prescotts were preparing to discuss a wedding date with my family. I didn't believe it at first, not until I found a ring box in Rose's car. In that moment, I remembered playing house as kids, how Rose had woven a ring for me out of grass. A clumsy 10-year-older had slipped it on my finger and said, "Make Anderson, when we grow up, you can only marry me, okay?" 10 years later, my heart finally caught up. That innocent childhood affection blossomed into something real. I suddenly realized that if it was Rose, marriage didn't seem so terrifying after all. I started to look forward to our wedding. I began asking everyone for advice on wedding planning, meticulously preparing a detailed plan for the proposal, the engagement, and the ceremony itself. I even booked an appointment with a top couture designer to create a custom gown for Rose. One Saturday, I booked the entire rooftop terrace of a hotel, spent a fortune on decorations, and got ready to propose. I was ecstatic when I asked her to meet me, and I'd even hired a photographer to capture the whole precious moment. But downstairs, outside the hotel, Rose just kept checking the time on her phone. "So what's this about? You should hurry up. Leo's welcome home party is starting soon. I need to get upstairs." My smile froze on my face. "I thought I had booked your whole evening." "You did. You said you had something to tell me, and I have some time before the dinner, so go ahead." My hands clenched into fists. It felt like a bucket of ice water had been dumped over my head, a chilling disappointment. She typed a reply on her phone, then glanced up at me casually. "You're not busy later, are you? You should come with me. He said he wants to meet you." So that's all I was to her, someone to be summoned at her convenience. I gave a bitter laugh, the desire to propose completely gone. "Sure," I nodded. I decided I had to meet this person who Rose clearly prioritized above all else. "I just need to take care of something first," I said, my earlier excitement completely evaporated. I composed myself and headed upstairs to dismiss the band and the other staff I'd hired. On my way, I passed the ladies' lounge and overheard a few of Rose's best friends chatting. "Hey, are Make and Rose actually serious?" My parents told me the Prescotts are already preparing her dowry. The speaker was Rose's cousin, and hearing that, my sinking feeling eased just a little. Right? She was just busy tonight. I could always reschedule. Make Anderson? She's just having some fun with him. Everyone knows Rose has a first love she's been waiting for. Seriously? Totally. The only reason she's been single all these years is because she's been waiting for him. But Meg's pursuit was so aggressive. If she'd turned him down, it would have been a huge slap in the face to the Anderson family. The girl who said this was Rose's best friend, someone she'd grown up with. They were so close they had no secrets. My mind went blank. I just stood there frozen. The next moment, Rose approached me with a scholarly-looking man in a crisp white shirt. "This is Leo Vance." She stood beside him, across from me. In that moment, they looked like the real couple. She didn't even bother to introduce me. I couldn't register anything they said after that, because the unique ring I had seen in that box was now on Leo Vance's middle finger. Everything suddenly became crystal clear. Rose had never, ever planned on marrying me. All the emotion, the anticipation, the dreams for our future, it was all just in my head. I wanted to laugh at what a fool I'd been, but I had to force a smile and make small talk. During the dinner party, someone, assuming wedding bells were in our future, asked how things were going between us. I smiled, stood up, and announced in a voice loud enough for the entire room to hear. We were just having fun. And now, we've progressed to the breakup stage. The room erupted in gasps. Rose's face went pale. I shot a look at her and Leo, then turned and walked out. The second I was outside, I couldn't hold it in any longer and slammed my fist into a nearby railing. Make Anderson, might not have many virtues, but I know how to love and how to let go. After the fallout with Rose, I had no reason to fight the arranged marriage anymore. The very next day, my family had me transferred to a university abroad to study alongside Bianca Sterling, with a plan to marry her immediately after graduation. My return this time wasn't just for Caleb's wedding. There was a more important reason. Caleb had told me that Rose was getting married. I had to see for myself just who this guy was that was finally marrying her. 2 years is long enough for a lot to change. Many of my old friends were now married with kids, all gathered around talking about their wives and children. I was bored and had nothing to contribute, so I found a quiet corner to sit and scroll through my phone. A moment later, a pair of high heels entered my line of sight. I looked up, and of course it was Rose. She was looking at me, her expression complicated, as if she wanted to say something but couldn't find the words. I gave her a slight smirk. "Is there something else I can do for you, Miss Prescott?" She frowned, studying my face for a few seconds before finally speaking. "I heard you got divorced." I found that amusing and couldn't resist teasing her. "What's this? Is prying into people's private lives your new hobby? Make Anderson. She bit out each syllable, looking like she wanted to rip me to shreds. I wasn't buying her act. The woman she was now had nothing to do with me, so I could be perfectly casual and detached around her. Or could it be that Miss Prescott still has a soft spot for me? Heard I was divorced, and thought you'd try to rekindle an old flame? I rose slowly to my feet, my height casting a shadow over her and forcing her to take a step back. It's a shame, though. I hear Miss Prescott is about to tie the knot herself. Guess I'm not so lucky after all. Her brow furrowed. Who am I supposedly marrying? I raised an eyebrow. Could Caleb have gotten it wrong? I looked away, but a wicked impulse suddenly struck me. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair from her face, my voice dropping to a low, ambiguous murmur. Well, if you're available, how about I put you at the top of the list for my second marriage? A prize like Miss Prescott won't be on the market for long. I should act fast. Why don't we go to City Hall today? Rose stomped her foot, her eyes turning red as she struggled to keep her voice down. Were you this casual about marrying that other woman? You break up when you want. You get married when you want. You think it's fun watching me get jerked around like this, don't you? What on earth makes you think I would ever want a divorce man? Her outburst stunned me for a second. 2 years apart had certainly given her a fiery temper. Her words hit a nerve, and for a moment, I felt a strange ache. I looked at her and gave a self-deprecating laugh, pulling my arm from her grasp. You're right. You're the esteemed Rose Prescott. Who the hell am I to imagine I could ever be worthy of the princess's attention? You enjoy the rest of your evening. I'll get out of your way. I gave a tight smile and started to walk away. Rose's stunning, curvaceous figure was poured into a black gown covered in glittering diamonds. Just standing in the light, she was an absolute vision, the undeniable center of attention for all the young elites of Manhattan. And me? I really was nothing in comparison. Yet here was the famously aloof Rose Prescott, completely incensed by just a few of my words. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, and just as I brushed past her, she grabbed my arm, her lips a thin, tight line. You're still messing with me. It's 6:30. City Hall closed hours ago. I was convinced Rose had lost her mind. For the rest of the reception, I did my best to avoid running into her. But as the party ended, she cornered me at the exit, and there was no escape. The expression on her exquisitely beautiful face was unreadable. She reached over and pulled open the passenger side door of her car. Get in. I stared at her, not moving, mentally calculating my odds of getting out of that car alive. A dramatic, fiery crash? I wouldn't put it past her. Scared. And of course, I'm the kind of guy who can never back down from a dare. I shrugged with an air of indifference and slid into the seat. Inside the car, the familiar scent of cedarwood surrounded me. It was the car fragrance I'd picked out for her years ago. It seemed her tastes hadn't changed. Rose didn't say a word the entire drive, and I wasn't in the mood to placate her, so I stayed silent too. I decided to just wait and see what she was planning. It wasn't until the scenery started to look deserted that I realized we weren't heading toward my place. Where are we going? Home. My home isn't in this direction. Who said we were going to your place? I couldn't hide my surprise. Rose, it's been a few years. Have you gotten this comfortable with bringing men home? I must have pissed her off again because Rose took a deep breath, pulled into a parking spot, and cut the engine. Neither of us said anything. The silence in the car was heavy. Finally, Rose was the one to break it. Her voice was sharp. You have nothing you want to say to me? Nope. Her pale hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles were white, her polished nails digging into the leather. You break up with me 1 minute and get married the next. That was a pretty seamless transition, wasn't it? I thought of myself, who was the one pining for her first love while putting on a show with me. What right did she have to blame me for anything? We were just having fun. Wasn't that clear to both of us? Make Anderson. Rose unbuckled her seatbelt, launching herself across the console and pinning me against the seat, forcing me to look directly at her. Her long hair tumbled over her shoulders, and that cedarwood scent was overwhelming, intoxicating. It was the perfume I'd picked for her years ago. I told her once that it suited her, and she was actually still wearing it. Her small but perfectly formed body was pressed against mine, and as our eyes met, my mind started to race. Her eyes were like an ocean, filled with a storm of conflicting emotions, obsession, longing, hurt, possessiveness, and a hint of madness. Finally, the storm subsided, leaving only a look of overwhelming love. Maybe it was too much to contain. A single tear escaped and fell onto my shirt. It felt scalding hot, like it could burn right through me. What do you mean we were just having fun? You have to say to my face. Tell me everything you felt for me back then was a lie. I couldn't stand seeing her like this, and I shifted uncomfortably. As I moved, my eyes caught the red string bracelet on her wrist. I froze. I had gotten that for her from a tiny, remote shrine when I was first trying to win her over, a charm for good health. I couldn't believe she was still wearing it. I couldn't resist reaching out and touching the little red string. My voice softened. "Does this mean something to you?" Rose watched my fingers, saying nothing. The silence in the car suddenly felt charged, intimate. The cedarwood scent from her perfume was so strong at this distance. That familiar smell awakened a deep, instinctual part of me. Looking at Rose, who had only grown more beautiful over the years, I was overwhelmed by a wave of longing. Before my brain could catch up, my body acted on instinct, and I kissed her. For a split second, I braced myself for rejection, for a hard slap across the face. But I saw only a flicker of surprise in her eyes before it melted away, replaced by a soft, loving warmth. She gently cupped my face, no longer holding anything back. She melted against me, pliant and willing. The windows of the car began to fog over from the inside. We went back to Rose's villa and didn't stop until the middle of the night. By the end, Rose was completely spent, finally giving in to exhaustion. But she still clung to me, insisting we stay up and talk. Is my body better now? My hand slid over her slim waist as I studied her, humming in agreement. And my technique, was it good? Her lips, red and swollen, were still parted as she caught her breath, looking utterly adorable. I took in the sight of the woman I'd missed for years and chuckled softly. So, between me and her, who was better? I laughed, shaking my head, but didn't answer the question, because by then, she was already fast asleep. When I woke up the next morning, I was alone in the bed. I glanced at the empty space beside me, feeling a little annoyed. I sat up, the memory of the previous night still vivid on my fingertips. I rubbed them together and had a laugh at myself. I felt like I just had a one-night stand and been ditched. The next second, the door opened and Rose walked in, dressed in a tailored power suit. With her hair pulled back in a high ponytail, the sharp suit, and her gorgeous face, she was captivating. The dark stockings visible beneath her pencil skirt left a lot to the imagination. Fortunately, I had already had the pleasure of a very close look. Rose looked like she was heading out for something important. I watched her and teased, "Not going to sleep in? Are you sure your body can take it?" She rolled her eyes, ignoring my comment. She handed me a glass of warm water with honey. "I made breakfast. I made that crab omelet you like." I took the glass and had a sip. "Great, I'll eat in a bit." She glanced at her watch. "You have 30 minutes to get ready. The stylist will be here soon." "A stylist?" "I already had your documents sent over. As soon as you're ready, we're going to City Hall." I choked on my water, and Rose rushed over to pat my back. "Sorry," I coughed. "I'm just a little shocked." Shocked. Her hand froze on my back, and her beautiful eyes narrowed dangerously. "Who was it that suggested going to City Hall yesterday?" I stared at her, opening and closing my mouth, completely speechless. "Come on, princess." Any normal person would have known I was joking. Rose read the look on my face and let out an angry laugh. "Make Anderson, is anything you say to me ever true?" I try to figure out how to phrase my next words carefully. Marriage is a serious thing. It's not a game. That was exactly the wrong thing to say. Not a game? So it was serious when you married her. But with me it's a game? She exploded. What am I to you, Make? Just some backup plan you keep on the side? Am I that pathetic in your eyes that I have to chase after you? Any shred of guilt I felt vanished. Rose, you were the one pining for your first love, the one who played with my heart first. That has been a thorn in my side for years, a constant, sharp pain. Oh, you're absolutely right. I'm so blessed that the great princess would even look my way. It's my fault for not appreciating it. Should I get on my knees and thank you properly? Could you stop being so damn sarcastic? No. I ignored her, got dressed, and headed for the door. She moved to block my path, her voice softening slightly. "What is it you really want?" "I don't want anything with you." The color drained from Rose's face, and her eyes hardened with anger. "Make Anderson, this is the third time. If you walk out that door now, we are done for good." She was threatening me? Like I cared. "My documents. Give them back." She stared at me for a second, then angrily threw a folder in my direction. "Take them." I grabbed the folder and shut the door, leaving her furious face on the other side. Then I slapped my own cheek. "Make, you idiot. How could you let yourself get so easily seduced and fall for it all over again? Manhattan's elite circle is small. You always end up seeing the same people at every party." A couple of days later, Rose and I ran into each other again at a dinner Chloe Jensen was hosting. Leo Vance was sitting next to her, and they kept leaning in to whisper to each other, looking incredibly close. The sight of them annoyed me, so I picked a seat in a far corner. Chloe and I are good friends, so she kept singling me out all night, using my return as an excuse to make me down several drinks. Even though I have a high tolerance, I couldn't handle mixing wine with liquor, and by the end of the night, I was definitely buzzed. As people started to leave, Chloe looked at me, worried. I waved her off, insisting I was fine, but then I nearly missed a step on the way out, and she had to grab my arm to steady me. "Let me give you a ride home. It's only a small detour." I was about to agree when another hand grabbed my other arm, a slender, pale hand that smelled of cedarwood. I glanced down and saw the familiar red string bracelet on her wrist. "Don't worry about it, Chloe. I'll take him." Chloe, of course, knew that Rose and I were not on the best of terms. She looked from Rose to me, her expression concerned. "I'll take him," Rose repeated, her voice now holding an icy, commanding tone that was impossible to argue. She was a Prescott, after all. Chloe just nodded and walked away. Rose watched Chloe leave, her expression still sour. Seeing her scowl, I felt a surge of annoyance. Who is that permanent scowl for? She shot me an angry glare and started pulling me toward the parking garage. Her fingers were wrapped tightly around my wrist, as if she was afraid I'd bolt the second she let go. "What's the meaning of this, Miss Prescott?" I wasn't aware we were on such familiar terms. Rose remained silent. She walked to her car, pulled open the passenger door, pushed me inside, then got into the driver's seat and started the engine. I looked at her, a sarcastic smile playing on my lips. "Looks like the great Miss Prescott is lonely tonight and needs someone to warm her bed. I guess I'm a lucky guy." Before I could finish, Rose silenced me with her lips. Her body was pressed flush against mine, her skin so hot it felt like it could melt me. "Ich stehe hier, stunned." Her eyes were closed, and tears were streaming down her face. Just when I thought I was going to pass out from lack of oxygen, she pulled away and spoke her first words. "Make Anderson, can you please just stop provoking me?" Her eyelashes were wet with tears as she gently traced the line of my jaw with her fingers. Her eyes were dark with desire, and her voice was husky. "You seem to be having a great time with Chloe tonight. She tells you to drink, and you just keep drinking. When did you two get so close?" I reached up and brushed my thumb over her damp, swollen lips. "Are you jealous?" I teased. She pouted, her voice full of hurt. "Can't I be? You're the one who said 3 strikes, and we're done." 3 strikes. That was only 2. I can give you one more chance. I decided to mess with her. And what if I don't want another chance? The proud, untouchable princess of Manhattan buried her face in my chest and mumbled, "Then you can give me one more chance." Everyone was saying that Rose Prescott had changed. The girl who used to wear a permanent scowl was now seen smiling at her phone. Caleb asked me, "I hear Rose is dating someone. Aren't you even a little bit curious?" "What's there to be curious about? Come on, she's your ex. You two were legendary." I was lying in bed, my arm around an exhausted Rose, and I texted him back, "It's still legendary, especially at night." After our last fight, Rose became as docile as a contented cat, sweet and affectionate, and she didn't bring up City Hall again. During the day, she'd go to her office, and I'd go to my studio to prepare for my upcoming exhibition. In the evenings, I'd pick her up from work, and we'd go home and exercise until the early hours of the morning. Sometimes it really felt like we had gone back 2 years to that strange, awkward state of being in love, caught somewhere between truth and lies. At the end of the month, my solo art exhibition was set to open, but Rose had a business trip overseas. Before she left, she held on to me, full of regret. "I'm so sorry. I should be there with you for such an important moment." I smoothed her hair back. "You have your own career to focus on. You can't get bogged down in romance." She pouted, looking like she wanted to say more, but all she said was, "Wait for me to get back." I never expected that she would actually work around the clock to finish her business early, just so she could fly back on the day of the opening to surprise me. But when she arrived, Bianca Sterling was on my arm, and we were all smiles for the cameras. By the time I finished with all the schmoozing and saw Rose in the lounge area, I froze. She didn't say a word, but her eyes were a maelstrom of pain, sorrow, confusion, and rage. I had a feeling that this time we were really finished. "She's back." "Yeah, but aren't you two divorced?" "We are." "Then what does that make me?" she asked, her voice trembling. I opened my mouth, but I didn't know what to say. What was she to me? From the moment I came back until now, we had never defined our relationship, never made it official. Everything had just happened so naturally, but it wasn't a normal relationship. Rose let out a cold, bitter laugh. "My mistake. I overstepped. She's the one you were actually married to. What right does a casual hookup like me have to question you?" I should have denied it, but suddenly, the memory of that night 2 years ago of Rose's casual indifference at Leo's party flashed in my mind, her face then merging with her face now. Her voice rose. "Make Anderson, do you even have a heart?" My whole body started to shake. I fought back the pain in my chest and yelled, Weren't you the one who was just playing around 2 years ago? Weren't you the one who was stringing me along while you were still hung up on your first love? You're asking if I have a heart? Rose, what about you? You have no right to say that to me. I was too emotional and didn't want to cause a scene, so after I yelled, I just walked away. I went home and blocked her number, blocked her on every platform. To avoid any chance of running into her, I turned down all social invitations and threw myself into my painting. That is until Leo Vance showed up at my gallery. The Vance family hadn't been doing well for the past few years. They didn't have much influence in our circle anymore. Since he was supposedly Rose's first love, marrying her would have been the easiest way for the Vances to regain their standing. But since I've been back, I hadn't heard a single thing about them making any progress. They were barely even seen together. I couldn't make sense of it, and I started to wonder if I had misunderstood something all along. Filled with questions, I gave him a tour of the gallery. He studied the paintings intently. "Mr. Anderson, your work has a very unique style. I'll have to come back and buy a piece for the living room of my new house." New house? My eye twitched, but I kept a polite smile on my face. "You're too kind, Mr. Vance." As he was about to leave, he pulled out a thick, red envelope. "I'm getting engaged next month. I hope you'll be able to make it, Mr. Anderson." As he handed it to me, his sleeve slid back, revealing a familiar red string bracelet on his wrist. My heart skipped a beat. Leo's smile was perfectly pleasant, but I could sense the triumphant mockery behind it. So Caleb had been right. Rose was getting married. She had just been playing dumb, lying to my face. I pushed down the sick feeling in my stomach and took the invitation. "Of course. I'll be sure to send one of my favorite paintings as a gift for you, Mr. Vance." He gave a slight nod. "Thank you. I'll look forward to it." After Leo left, I stood in the doorway of the gallery for a long time, just staring into space. There was no misunderstanding. The man Rose was marrying had always been him. Just then, my phone rang. It was Caleb. "Hey, Mike, are you going to Leo Vance's engagement party?" I gritted my teeth. "Yeah, of course I'm going." If his fiancée isn't embarrassed, why should I be? "Huh? His fiancée? You've dated Chloe Jensen." "Chloe Jensen?" I was stunned. "Yeah, isn't Leo getting engaged to Chloe?" I quickly tore open the invitation. On the line for the bride-to-be, written in elegant script, was Chloe Jensen's name. What's going on? I thought Leo was Rose's first love. Are you drunk? It's the middle of the day. Rose hasn't been with anyone but you for years. What first love? My mind was racing. If Leo and Rose weren't engaged, did that mean I'd had it wrong this whole time? I didn't wait for another word. I hung up the phone and raced over to Rose's house. I must have rung the doorbell 100 times before she finally opened it, looking exhausted, with dark circles under her eyes. Her eyes went wide when she saw me. Before she could say anything, I grabbed her hand and pushed up her sleeve. The little red string bracelet was still there, securely on her wrist. "What's wrong?" she asked, completely confused. "Nothing," I said, pulling her sleeve back down and trying to sound casual. "Just thought you might have given my gift away." She touched the bracelet. "Give it away? To who?" "To your first love," I said sarcastically. "First love?" Rose's brow furrowed in genuine confusion. Just then, I caught a glimpse of her phone screen, which she must have forgotten to lock in her haste. The search bar read, "How to apologize to someone who blocked you." Combined with her exhausted appearance, it was almost painfully cute. I couldn't help but smile. "You're not angry anymore?" she asked, standing on her tiptoes to get a better look at my face. I gently pushed her back. "You need to tell me the truth. What is really going on between you and Leo Vance?" After we went inside, and I explained everything, Rose looked furious. She immediately got on the phone and spent the next half hour chewing out the friends who had spread those rumors years ago. "So, there's no other first love?" "Absolutely not." "Then what about the ring?" "Leo asked my cousin to pick it up for him while she was abroad." "How was I supposed to know you'd see it and get the wrong idea?" "Then why did Caleb tell me you were getting married?" A tiny, almost imperceptible smile played on Rose's lips. "How should I know? You'll have to ask him." After her explanation, a huge weight lifted from my chest. I stood up and brushed myself off, ready to leave. Rose grabbed my hand. "You just leaving? Why would I stay?" With a gentle tug, she pulled me back down onto the sofa, and I was once again surrounded by that wonderful cedarwood scent. I turned to look at her, and she was blinking up at me with a playful, pleading look. Me. After we finally cleared the air, it was like Rose became a completely different person. In public, she was still the cool, aloof heiress, but at home, she was like an octopus, wanting to be attached to me 24/7. She took care of everything for me, from what I wore and ate to managing my social calendar. She handled it all. I was more than happy to have the free time to focus on my painting. The day before Leo's engagement party, I asked Rose where she'd put the gift I had prepared for him. She was in a meeting at the office. "It should be in the storage room in the basement. Have a look around." Rose's villa had a 2-level basement, and I searched through a few rooms based on memory, but I couldn't find the painting. Just as I was about to try another room, I spotted a familiar tin candy box on a bookshelf near the door. It was a gift my dad had brought back for me from a trip abroad when I was a kid, and at that age, it was the most precious thing I owned. So, naturally, I gave it to Rose for her 10th birthday. I never imagined I would see it again, more than a decade later, in a place like this. Curious, I took the tin box down from the shelf. It was in perfect condition. I gently lifted the lid and saw that the top layer was filled with old candy wrappers. Resting on the wrappers was a little plastic bag containing a ring woven from grass. Beneath, there were several flattened prescription pill boxes, and at the very bottom lay a diary with a combination lock. My heart started to pound. I suddenly felt nervous. I tried Rose's birthday as the combination, but it didn't work. Then I tried my own birthday. It clicked open. The first entry was dated on Rose's 10th birthday, the handwriting childish and sweet. Today, Mate gave me a beautiful box of candy. I'm so happy, but I don't want to eat it because it's too pretty. I made a grass ring for Make today and made him promise he would only marry me when we grow up. He said yes, but then he lost the ring, so I had to go find it in the dark. When we're older, I won't wear a real ring with Make. Make has such a nice smile. I don't want him to smile at any other girls. Like most kids' diaries, the entries were sporadic, and the childish handwriting stopped after just a few pages. The next entry was dated the day I asked her out, the handwriting now a neat, elegant script. Make is such an idiot. Renting out all those billboards must have cost a fortune. All he had to do was ask, and I would have said yes. What should we name our kids? I wonder if Make wants a boy or a girl. If we have a boy, I hope he's just like his father. The entries were short and simple, but there was one for every day, a record of her quiet, tender happiness during that time. Make broke up with me. I never even got the chance to tell him I was ready to get married. Make married someone else. He promised he would only ever marry me. He lied. Can't sleep. Why don't take the medicine? I feel like I can't hold on anymore. But what's the point of holding on? Make isn't coming back. As I kept reading, my hands began to shake. I picked up the pill boxes and looked up the names of the medications on my phone. The word antidepressants hit me like a tidal wave, completely overwhelming me. Tears of pure anguish started streaming down my face, splashing onto the pages of the diary. I just sat there on the floor of the dark, dusty room, feeling like I couldn't breathe. When Rose got home, she was clearly in a panic. She burst through the door and rushed over to me, throwing her arms around me, her voice tight with anxiety. What's wrong? Why weren't you answering my texts? You scared me to death. I thought something had happened. I thought you were going to disappear on me again without a word. She was out of breath, her arms wrapped around me so tightly I could barely breathe. I hugged her back, patting her on the back as my own tears continued to fall. Rose, I said slowly, my voice thick. You lied to me again. Her body went rigid in my arms. Lied about what? You said you didn't have a first love. I don't, she said, her voice frantic. How can I prove it to you? If I'm lying, you can do whatever you want of me. I pulled away from her and picked up the diary from the floor. You've been in love with me all these years. Why didn't you ever tell me? Rose stared at the diary in my hands, then looked down at the open box, at all her secrets I had laid bare. She pressed her lips together, then carefully smoothed out each candy wrapper and placed them back in the tin. I was afraid, she whispered, that you didn't love me back. When we got older, you barely spoke to me. And then everyone was saying you were engaged to Bianca Sterling. I was afraid if I got too close, people would talk. I wanted to yell at her, but instead, I just pulled her into a hug and gently booped her nose. You little coward. Rose looked up at me and smiled. Yeah, I guess loving you so much made me a coward. She took out the little grass ring and held it up to my finger. It's too small now. It won't fit anymore. I wiped the tears from my face with the back of my hand, took a deep breath, and got down on one knee. I pulled the diamond ring I'd been holding on to for years out of my pocket. Rose Prescott, will you marry me? Rose just stared at me, blinking as if she couldn't process what I was saying. I held the ring out a little further. Will you marry me? She looked flustered. But the ring I got for you is upstairs, and I picked up the little grass ring and placed it in her palm. It's okay. This is the only one I want. But I haven't planned anything. There's no photographer, and you haven't. Will you marry me? I just repeated the question, waiting for her answer. She looked at me, laughing through her tears, her expression melting into pure joy. I do, Make Anderson. Yes, I do. Before our engagement party, I got a few of our close friends together to share the good news. Rose was practically bouncing with joy the entire night, clinging to my arm like a happy little bird as we mingled. But her smile vanished the moment she saw Bianca Sterling walk in. Honey, why is she here? She asked, looking up at me, refusing to even acknowledge Bianca's presence. I smiled and gently turned her face toward me. I invited her. Make Anderson. Bianca wanted to come and explain things to you herself about our divorce. Rose's expression softened slightly, but she still looked annoyed. Miss Prescott, Bianca began politely. Meg told me what happened at the gallery opening. I'm so sorry about that. Why is she calling you Meg? Rose interrupted, completely ignoring what Bianca was saying. My patience was wearing thin. I gritted my teeth. Just listen to her. Reluctantly, Rose shot a glance at Bianca. Bianca gave an awkward smile. Actually, Mr. Anderson and I were never legally married. We only had a ceremony abroad for our families. Rose's eyebrows shot up. So, it was a marriage of convenience. Yes, we only got married to satisfy our families. We've only ever been friends. Rose's grip on my arm tightened, but her voice was much more relaxed, almost cheerful. Oh, that's fine then. Any friend of Make's is a friend of mine. This woman could change her tune in a heartbeat. At the gallery opening, the main investor was a family connection, and my parents didn't want it getting out that Mr. Anderson and I had separated, so they asked us to put on a show for the press. Rose's smile widened. No problem. Totally understandable. But we've cleared things up with our families now, so it won't happen again. So if you could, Miss Prescott, please call off the dogs. Ever since the gallery opening, Rose had been making life hell for the Sterling family's business, driving Bianca and her brother crazy. Of course, Rose said, shaking Bianca's hand warmly. We're all Make's friends here. We should get together more often. Bianca forced a smile and agreed, though I'm sure she was thinking she'd rather stay as far away as possible. After we'd made the rounds, Rose got pulled into a gossip session with some of her friends, and I slipped away to a quiet corner to check my phone. I pulled out of my pocket and realized I'd grabbed Rose's phone by mistake. I was about to put it away when a new iMessage notification popped up on the screen. It was from Caleb. Mission accomplished. Don't I get a thank you? My eyebrow twitched. What did that mean? I used her fingerprint to unlock the phone and scrolled up. There were only a few messages in their chat history. From Caleb, Make is divorced. From Rose, I know. A month later, from Rose, can you help me get Make to come back to town? I'm going to propose to him. I raised an eyebrow. Just then, Rose broke away from her friends and came over to find me. I held up her phone. So this is the real story behind Miss Prescott getting married? After the party ended, Rose said she wanted to take me to see the venue for our engagement ceremony. As we got closer, I realized where we were. It was the big lawn in the park where we used to play house as kids. I was surprised it was still here after all these years. Rose took my hand, her eyes soft and smiling. This is my gift to you. I hope you like it. The lawn was pitch black at night, and a gentle breeze carried the fresh scent of grass. Rose led me on a walk across the field. I could feel her excitement through her hand in mine, and my heart felt full. When we reached the middle of the lawn, I pulled her down to sit on a bench and wrapped my arms around her. The next second, thousands of tiny lights flickered on above us, bathing the area in a soft glow. I looked up and saw that the trees above were covered in strings of fairy lights. Were these always here? I turned to ask Rose, but I stopped when I saw that she was holding a beautiful, unique diamond ring. Mr. Make Anderson, she began, today is the 14th anniversary of the day we met. Rose looked at me, her eyes reflecting the twinkling lights above. I've been in love with you for a very, very long time. Will you marry me? I smiled at her, my eyes welling up with tears. We had both waited so long for this moment. From now on, I would have to love her twice as much to make up for all the lost time, all the regrets. I looked at her, my heart overflowing. Idol, I only ever want to marry you.